All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm super excited to be here in this IO student meetup. We're going to be having some good conversations today. But before we get started, as usual, you're more than welcome to jump in and join the conversation. This is an open conversation, so please feel free to raise your hand, send some comments on the chat. We want everybody to be involved and ask questions if you have them. This is the place to ask them. So, Syntyche, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, help us know a little bit more about you. What are you doing? I know I've had the opportunity to hear you talk in one of the courses that I was taking. So I loved everything you do. And I just felt like you were going to be such a good guest to be on this meetup and for people to learn from you. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gabby. I really appreciate the opportunity. I always have a good time, especially around fellow IOers. So I don't know if that's a thing, but it really should be, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
So my name is Syntyche Jennings Bechar, and phonetically, that's like a bow tie in the middle, Syntyche. Um, I guess a little bit about my educational background, starting from the beginning. I guess probably want to know that. I do have a bachelor's degree in applied behavior analysis currently. I do serve as a board certified analyst in a full-time role. And I have the pleasure of teaching classes virtually for a South Florida college on the topic. For a lot of the amazing IOs out there, I do certainly have a master's degree in IO in the wonderful field of biopsychology. That was actually inspired by a research project I worked on with Stanford School of Business. And that kind of, yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I did make a pivot recently. I was actually finishing a doctorate in global business, and now I've moved that to a PhD in IO psychology, just to kind of, and that was a decision that I was like, what, I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. Just kind of pivot there. I currently work on a startup company, Future State University. I'm head of gamified psychometrics with Future State. And right now we're working on a realignment of the Holland Code RISIC KSAs, and also some job analysis for a career bank that we're creating in a multiplayer gamified generative AI environment. So I run quite a bit of R simulations and SPSS, statistical software, and a few research projects on the serious gaming and game theory and assessment side. And honestly, I would recommend anyone to get into the whole data analytics side if you're interested. I interned with Microsoft, their data science, and learned Python that way. But I taught myself R and SPSS, believe it or not, from YouTube. YouTube is your friend, unless you're doing that whole mindless scroll. So don't do that. But YouTube, I was able to jump into another internship from what I learned, just self-taught. For now, the company is called V, as a people scientist, and we're doing some amazing things. And I found that through LinkedIn. And there really is quite a bit of opportunity out there. And as always, I started out with the Bridgify group, which is amazing. Those necessary research skills that we all need. So yeah, just started out there, and I just made my way here. Currently, just working on kind of all of those sides that I fall in naturally. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I have a lot of questions. I think whenever you came, actually, that's where I saw you, the research and translation course, which if you haven't heard about it, please go and find out about it with the Bridgify group. It is a really cool course, and you're going to learn so much about research, which I truly enjoyed. Whenever you went on there and you talked about gaming and your background and how you aligned IO and all of that, I was just really blown away because I feel like a lot of IOs have a very diverse background professionally and even academically speaking. So it's always really cool to hear. How did you hear about IO? How did you overlap those two? How did you feel like, okay, I'm going to put these things together and I'm going to make it work?
Sorry, I was on mute. So that kind of goes back to my days that I spent and behavior analysis, and branching over into organizational behavior management. It's been 22 years in the field for behavioral science, and I think that at the time I was mostly looking at just being able to successfully run, the whole organizational side of a clinic, and just being able to kind of work on that whole, people management side. And the thing that really pushed me into the direction of IO was that research project that I did with Stanford graduate school, and I think that there were a couple of other IOs on that team as well. I know one of them that we always talk to, our it's Tammy. Yeah. She's quite often on LinkedIn events and things like that. So she was really inspirational for me because I was like, I actually love being able to look at data, and I love being able to examine some of the things that kind of lead up to prediction, and being able to control and those certain areas that we need to kind of control to figure out what's reliable, what's verifiable, and all of those other eyeable things that are necessary.
Yep.
So I think that really pushed me into the direction of just honing out those skills. And every time I talk to other IOs, I hear so many other things that have influenced that decision. And one bit of advice that I always hear constantly is use what like constantly, like pull those things that you've learned in the past and bring them into what you're doing currently, because it's super valuable. I find that being able to do that has really rounded me out in a way that I thought I might have been lacking some sort of skill, but it's like it's either attainable or it's already something that you've experienced. So just bridge that gap. That's pretty much what yeah.
I like that. I feel like that's kind of been some of the comments that we've had throughout this IO meetups is always use what you know, bring what you have, and it's somehow going to work out. And it just sounds so vague, but it actually does. Joshua on the chat said he's currently teaching himself R, and it's definitely a challenge. I'm guessing, can you tell us what is that, Joshua, if you want to expand, or can somebody clarify for me? Do you see that on there? Oh,
Yeah.
there.
Sorry, I have my kids playing right now on their Oculus, but yeah, ours is a challenge right now. Currently, I'm in a first year doctoral program over at Florida Tech, and they're teaching us SPSS, and I'm comfortable with it. I know it from undergrad, but I'm starting to realize that that's not the program that's being used in industry. It's actually like R and Python as can you please remind me how to pronounce your name? I'm sorry.
It's Syntyche.
Syntyche, thank you. Yeah, as she mentioned that R and Python are the programming languages that are used. So I want to get ahead in the game and pretty much learn what's being used in industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's those two have been super helpful. I mean, there's others, but Python and R, and just that whole bridge to everything else from SPSS is super valuable. I found that a lot of employers, even if you know a little bit, you don't have to be an expert. If you know a little bit, it goes a long way, because they can kind of mentor that along, and they'd be happy to.
Oh, that's good to know. I thought I would have to, build my whole programming repertoire and build models from the ground up. But it's good to know that as long as you can function with it, that's pretty much what you need.
Definitely. Thanks for
Absolutely.
sharing, Joshua.
Yes, thank you. I think getting your, I guess, feet wet in different things that you're interested in is definitely super helpful. I did a institutional research role for a short period of time, and what really helped was having some understanding of SPSS thanks to my master's degree. And once I went in there, I mean, it they were actually implementing different programs at the time. So then it completely pivoted what I thought I was going to be using. They decided, you know what, we're going to go this route instead. So I think it's good to have some understanding, but in my opinion, in my experience, sometimes just being flexible enough to say, you know what, I'll pick it up, I'll practice, I'll take the time that I need after work or before work to make sure that you're kind of catching up, because oftentimes a lot of people are learning with you in the organization. So, but Anel was actually with us with me in the same cohort for the research translation course. And she says that she's still using your illicit recommendation, which thank you for that. That is such a cool tool that you shared with us that day. And she's using it to extract CSVs. And she definitely highly recommends the Bridgify Group's research translated course. That is a mouthful. And she's asking if she can share the IO Coders Discord group chat. I feel like you might be able to, of course. Okay, so William says, I have lots of questions regarding value systems. One would be, how do you account for different value system, culture, as well as other systems that are not specifically social in your work so far? And then what assessment may you be using? That's a long question.
Yeah, let's trying to figure out what side to cut into that. So you're looking for William, that is a great question. It's really packed. So as far as culture and other systems that are not specifically social, do you want to give me maybe a specific example of what you might be referring to? And of course, as far as the assessments themselves, there's a whole list of valid and reliable assessments that can be found if you're using a tool, any type of research tool that makes your life a whole lot easier to find those assessments that have been validated, especially for culture and also specific whatever specific type of assessment you're looking for. Yeah.
And William, I think that was your question. If you want to jump in and just kind of give us a little bit more context and regards to your question, I think that might help, because I think that was like a layered question. If you feel comfortable.
Yeah. So I'm just trying not to talk because I'm a little sick today. So no problem. I've got a project right now that I'm trying to figure out, and it's a pretty complex project dealing with 3 major integration aspects, if you want to call it that. And one of them is the aspect of faith, not necessarily religion, but an aspect of faith in regards to things like culture, optimizing worker performance through faith and the SMART goals, if you want to think about it that way. And one of the things that I've been running into is how to measure various value systems, because that's essentially the model I'm trying to create. But there's specific older theories, like I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a sociologist, and they can't necessarily, how do I put this? In my model, they're all interacting at the same time and necessarily dependent. So my main problem is how do I measure the different value systems within each aspect? If that's probably a little complex, but if you have any leads, that would be nice.
Would you, I guess, as far as that keyword search, would you be looking at measuring faith-based value systems?
It would be associated, but not necessarily directly religion or faith-based.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, got it. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't, jumping on illicit. There is a ton of information there that I keep illicit pulled up on my computer, and I just typed in exactly what you were looking for. And there is quite a bit of information that popped up as far as being able to measure those systems, and also some diverse approaches and some studies that I found. So I guess, William, are you on illicit?
I am not.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, thanks for posting that. There are, I wish you could have joined that tutorial, but there are, I think there's an 8-minute tutorial on illicit on YouTube as well. They'll teach you all of the steps to go through, and it has the way that you can just go in and type in your question. It's going to summarize your papers for you. Yeah, summary. And also allow you to chat with your papers to ask specific questions of those papers as well, saving you a lot of time during your research.
It is a life changer, William.
Yeah. Definitely worth it.
Yes. Yes, it definitely, and I would definitely encourage you to spend some time on there. I believe that these are peer-reviewed journals, right? For the most part, these are pretty solid information that you're going to be getting out of there. And it's definitely going to cut your research time maybe in half. I mean, just the way that that works, it's amazing. Thank you, Anel, for sharing that. I hope that's helpful. I don't know that there was a specific answer to your question, but I think there's definitely a how to find the answer, and I can for sure say that that's a very good, solid place to start looking.
Yeah, I'm huge on operating within my scope. And that doesn't happen to be one of my areas that I operate in, but I am keen on doing the research to find out, the best places to find valid research. So that would be where I would go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, so how did this interest in IO started? I know everybody has some sort of exposure to it in school or maybe by working with other people, but for you, what really just drew you into the field to the point where you decided to get the master's and then now you decided to shift and pivot to a doctorate program, sorry.
Yeah. So when I was, I guess once I finished my master's degree, I was kind of at a crossroads because I was trying to figure out, and you can, pause me if I'm going off into a tangent, but
Oh, good.
I, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to actually continue past that point. And I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to go that whole route of just, getting a doctorate or, the whole PhD or just stopping where I was. I know I did an analysis of my goals to figure out where I wanted to be. And as far as the master's degree for IO, that to me was a no-brainer because I was like, okay, I'm just going to bridge the two worlds that I have right now that are, interconnected with behavior analysis and also IO psychology. And that was a no-brainer. But the whole pivot that I had from global business to IO psychology was basically just looking at some of the other PhD level IO psychologists, looking at their background. I actually looked at, I was combing through LinkedIn profiles to see their whole journey, and also where they were, what kind of skills they picked up, different opportunities. So I was doing analysis of, you would call it an analysis of just, where I wanted to be and how others, their career trajectory looked based on whether they were at the master's level or PhD level. And I did this for, I want to say 6 to 8 months before I decided that, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and call up my, um, academic coach and just make the switch because I felt that I was better aligned with my goals based on what I saw was, the pattern across those profiles of where I wanted to be. So it was more so a personal decision to continue.
That's amazing. And that really just show your dedication to really wanting to make sure you go the right way where you want to go. Sometimes it's so easy to just kind of jump in and try to accomplish and get all the things done. And then we tend to look back and say, dang, I think I should have spent a little bit more time. And I know speaking for myself, I have my bachelor's degree is in forensic psychology. I really thought I was going to go into the criminal psychology and a whole different route, and I did not. I ended up completely changing because of my what I was doing at the time and the job and just the conversations around that. So definitely spending some time is a super smart idea. So I am amazed by that. So what about this IO or your goals in terms of in the future, in 10 years, 20 years, what do you think or what do you want to be your contribution to be to the field? Are you thinking, I don't know, maybe a book or research or a project? What's in your mind right now?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that was, you know, one of the things that I was always kind of keen on is becoming an author in those areas that I know that you know, my scope is in.
Mhm.
Basic, you know, just kind of eliminating those things that were necessary to my path. And that's one of them. Also, just being able to engage in different events, as far as being able to sit on, you know, different board um, positions and things like that, being able to work partially in academics as
Mhm.
well. That's definitely something that I have a goal to attain. And also just being able to contribute at a consultant level. I think one of the things that I was kind of mulling back and forth of whether I wanted to actually be within the workplace,
Mhm.
or whether I wanted to continue as a consultant. And I think my area, as you probably already heard, I'm kind of in startup. I'm doing the internship. I have a full time. I'm just kind of all over the place, and that's how I work the best. And that's probably what I will do. And there's some amazing opportunities in the consultant area. And I did, you know, it's like, you know, maybe I want to, you know, go into a company, but I found that a lot of consultants, and from what I've seen, there's some companies out there who just, you know, they want a consultant. And there's some big name companies that just, you know, hey, you know, can you kind of evaluate whether this would be a project that you would like to take on, and
Mhm.
just having that versatility and just signing the NDA and you know, you're done with it after you've completed that, and then you do your maintenance and see how things are going. I really like that. So those are goals of mine. And of course, you know, that's not everything, but that's the short of it. Yes. Yeah.
I like that. You know, eh, I find a lot, I can relate a little bit to what you're talking about because for a while I have been trying to do a lot at the same time. And for me, it really helps me stay focused and stay in the game. I mean, I like having all the things. And now that I recently started this new job in consulting, I think it's definitely shifted the way that I work because there's so many demands that once you're in the job, and for me, like I travel to the organizations, there's so many things that I didn't take into consideration. So there's a lot of things that I had to kind of step back from in order to remain sane. But I'm hearing you and I'm like, there's currently an internship that I wish I could have applied for, but I'm like, if I want to survive and make it through the year, that's impossible. I cannot do that. But before I actually the first month of my job, I was doing the course, which I truly enjoyed. And then I was working with in another project with other colleagues and completely different, just a passion project and just a lot of different things that I was like, this is awesome. And then I started traveling and I'm like, this is exhausting. I can't do this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're yeah, I can definitely see that. I love the whole remote life.
Yeah.
I like being able to kind of do that. Not so much the travel route. That I mean, I think I did that briefly. Yeah, it was brief. It was like a year. I did that for a consultant role that I took on, and it was a little burnout. So that's a consideration
Yeah.
too. If you're gonna be traveling, just think about that. Some people are just road. They love it, but sometimes that's a consideration too to see if
Mhm.
you can do it.
That is so true. I know before I took on the job, it's something that really excited me and just I wanted to really do it. And I think it's still a really fun part of the job. I am I'm a structured person, so this is definitely not structured. You cannot just work on the go and you figure out as you go, and that's been fun. But that's one part of consulting that people tell you, and then it's one thing to hear about it and another thing to go through it. So I'm hearing you, and I'm like, I'm glad that you're able to do all of these things. That's amazing. I am not at this point in my life. I'm unable to, and that's okay. So,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah,
oh,
everybody.
sorry, go
No,
ahead.
you're good. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, so with the decision to go into doctorate, that's usually one of the questions that come up a lot. Should I get a doctorate? Should I not get a doctorate? I think you have it sounds like you have a pretty good path already in mind for what you want to do. So was this path what motivated you to go into the doctorate program route, or is that just something that you wanted to do? We get so many different answers. I'm curious as to what was your thinking process behind, you know what, I am going to get a doctorate.
Yeah, it did go into it. I actually took some time off in between to figure out whether I wanted to do the doctorate.
Mhm.
And eventually went back, and you know, really, I love learning. So I'm not even sure 100% if that was more so like I just want to be in college versus these are my goals. I mean, I was happy to mesh them both together.
Yeah.
But I think that some of the things that I want to do, it really will contribute to being able to kind of have the doctorate as well.
Mhm.
And also the people in the field that I did kind of analyze their path. They had some pretty significant opportunities. I think in the beginning stage, if you're taking on the consultant roles, and I say this all the time, even in the field, in the analysis, behavioral analysis, and anything, there's different areas that you can work in. And I think somebody posted on LinkedIn like all of the IO areas before. It's so many, and in the early stages, definitely don't limit yourself to just one area. Kind of, look at those internships that you can kind of do in 3 months or 6 months. Let them know your time requirement. Hey, I only have 10 hours a week, or I only have 8 hours or 5 hours a week, but I really want to know if this is something I want to do, and try it out, and do a great job in that internship. You'll get those recommendations, and if it wasn't the area for you, you still have that to put on your resume,
Mhm.
that you have experience, and it does count as experience. And you also have those recommendations, those connections that you made. So I guess as far as just being able to do that up front, and
Mhm.
also have, for me, having the doctorate or PhD was just another level that I would like to take it to, and just gaining those connections along the way who are also on a similar path.
I like that. Thank you. Mary said she's an IO master's program and an HR intern right now, but she's interested. I'm sorry, I'm just assuming it's she. I apologize. Mary is interested in pursuing a career in organizational development and management consulting. She says, since you both mentioned consulting, is there any advice you could give for anyone trying to get into the field, more specifically, how to do that and the skills to build? Oh my gosh, that's like the $1 million question, huh? How do we get into the field and what skills do we need?
One of the things that I do specifically is I will go on to any job site, and there is one that I'll try to figure out. I don't know if you grab the list of those recommendations for the like the job sites and things, the searches that I did before, Gabby, but feel free to share.
I think so.
That is uh, go and type in internship and see what they're looking for. See what they're looking for, and then type in the information that you would like to do eventually, or think you might want to do eventually. Whether it's people science or just organizational development, and look at those roles at the master level that have at least 1 year, 2 year experience, and kind of align the two, see where they might fit. As far as the way that I got into psychometrics, it just happened that there was a competition that was one of the other startup companies I volunteered to work for, won a internship for a year with LinkedIn and Microsoft. So we got a chance to meet with their data science teams and learn Python and go through the whole people, the whole people science portion of it, and just pick up all of those little areas in between, and putting that information, even if it's super small, putting that information inside of your resume. Again, we're talking about keywords and things like that. Really boost that. And we're talking about getting, skills. We're talking about getting more opportunities and getting into the field. Never play down stuff that you might be learning, because I feel like it's all necessary. And it should be there on your resume. So, yeah, definitely start looking at those, the job postings and things like that to see what skills are needed. And I do this constantly, even when I'm not really looking for anything, but I'm always looking for new opportunities. And I want to know, like, what is this company looking for? Do I have that? How can I get that? Those are the things that pop into my mind when I'm looking at an opportunity that's like, oh, I would love to do that, so that's what
I love that. I think we've had a couple guests here that have talked about keeping your options open, even if you have a job or a role, or even if you're just already doing what you really like, having conversations around what would it be like if I did this. I know and I can't think of her name right now. I feel so bad, but I admire everything she does. She's freaking amazing, and she has so much experience doing so many different things. And she'll tell you, like, I just have a conversation with people, and sometimes I jump on some projects. I don't necessarily get hired, but she gets the experience. And I love what you said about the internships, because that gives you some idea of what the work could look like. I did a consulting very short internship, and I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely what I really want to do. But it may not be for some people, because you hear consulting a lot, and consulting can be a lot. It can be heavy. It can be a lot of work. It can require a lot of your time. So I think another thing that I wanted to add to what you said was, if there is a company or a specific place or a specific job role that you really want to do, I would definitely follow Syntyche's suggestions on this. Go in there on LinkedIn and look at the roles, look at the people that are working there, maybe even have informational interviews. Sometimes people will say, hey, this is maybe what you might need to work on or add to your resume. Or I did a couple informational interviews when I didn't know what I wanted to do. And some people will sometimes even offer to pass your resume along to somebody else. So you just want to make sure that you're making those connections. And what worked for me was, I had my eye on this company for a long time, and I applied earlier and a couple years back, and it didn't work out. I didn't have the experience that they were looking for. I didn't have the skills that they were looking for, but then I found out through that first no. So then I went back and got what I needed. And then I applied again when the opportunity came up, and I had built some relationship within the company, and then they thought of me, and then they came back, and we were able to have some conversations. So I think it's a matter of getting yourself out there, networking, just getting curious, having conversations. I feel like that's really how you break into the consulting field. But it just really depends on like what type of consulting and where, what do you want to do, which in the IO world, that is so vast. There are so many different options, so many.
Thank you. And something popped up. I had the opportunity to work with an executive coach. And one of the things that we've been seeing is that a lot of jobs that you're looking at the job and it's like 500 applicants or something like that. And a lot of the jobs themselves, a lot of people have these, and I don't know if anybody's heard of Ladders. Ladders is a company that will apply for the jobs for you. That you can put up any type of resumes that you want. I think at one time I had about 4 different resumes when I was trying Ladders. And you click on the job that you want it to apply to, and you can do this up to 200 or something like that, depending on the plan. And a lot of people are doing this, and the recruiters are getting tons of resumes. So the executive coach that I had let me know that, one way that you can stand out is to make sure that you have a professional 10-second video of yourself. Introduce yourself as a IO psychology student, graduate student. This is my name. I'm interested in your company. I think, 10 seconds. And add that, you can easily look and add that to your information, and you be able to kind of stand out in that way because you're kind of in a sea of applications as well.
That is such a good point. So tell us about working with coaches or working with mentors. Have you found that helpful? I know some people have not. I personally, anytime I get to talk to someone who's in the coaching world or mentoring, I try to get on that. How has that been for you? Would you recommend it for people that are starting in their professional career?
Um, it's not for everybody. There's certain degree of research that kind of shows that it's more so individual based. I think that the main reason that I was looking for executive coaches there was I was constantly in contact with C-suite, constantly in contact with CEOs and COOs, and and I needed to be able to kind of know when to turn on that whole presence and turn it off. And I needed to be able to have those tools to work through, anything on the whole spectrum of business to be able to work through those conversations while also getting to, really nerd out and talk about the IO side too. So being able to bridge that gap, super important to me. So that was one of the reasons I made the personal decision to get an executive coach.
I like that. And I think you're right. It definitely depends on people and what you're looking for. And then you definitely have to match with a good coach that personality wise and that really works with you and your goals. Thank you. So looking back now where you're at in your professional life, what do you think were some of the things that helped you the most? Was it experience? Was it skills? Was it your personality? Support? What do you think helped you get where you're at today?
I find it funny that you mentioned personality. I'm very I can be very like and it probably doesn't look it, but I'm very focused on the things that I would like to contribute, and sometimes I'm a little bit hyper focused on those things. So maybe it might be personality, I don't know. You can let me know, but I think myself, just being able to show initiative. A lot of the interviews that I've sat in and been able to speak to leadership is they love that I've kind of been curious, um, looked at different things, shown skills in areas that they don't necessarily want, but they're like, you did that? Can you tell us about it? Those type of conversations often lead to opportunities because they have because they see that, okay, this person, they're the type of person they'll come into a company. If there's an issue, they're going to figure out how to work around that issue. They're going to try to figure out and be curious about it rather than saying, hey, there's an issue. And it does translate from your resume, all of those things about your, I guess, work personality. So that is something that I think is important to kind of focus on. How can you display your working personality, your motivations, and everything else within your resume? It's not easy to do, but it's something that a lot of good employers are going to actually look at and just kind of, see if that person is curious. That's one of the things that I think it's been helpful for me. And also being able to have some sort of way to um, uh, attend events such as this to kind of make connections, because the last thing that one of the patterns that I've seen with a lot of IOs who might not be getting those opportunities is they've kind of isolated themselves. And that was one of the patterns I've seen. They're not really reaching out in those groups. They're not active on, like, even in the comment section on LinkedIn, or either making those connections. Hey, I see you're an IO, and you're a graduate student. 9 times out of 10, every time I've come across someone who's working in a company, they're like, oh yeah, I knew this person. And then they got, they were able to connect me with this role.
Gotcha.
And that's super important. So don't isolate yourself. Yeah.
That is so important. I know that one, like Anil said, I'm a natural isolator. But she loves the IO psychology community so much. It is such a cool place because I feel like you have conversations and then you just nerd out and have like the coolest conversation about a lot of different things. One of the, and everybody, if you ever get a chance to check out the SEBOC podcast, they have it every Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I think it's noon Eastern time. But you get to go in there and you get to participate and be part of the conversation. And then they record that and make it into a podcast. And it is just the coolest thing because you get a lot of different insights and perspectives. And you're just really like in this room with people that have this passion for IO and people that have all this background. It's such a really cool place. And I think you're right. Like sometimes when people get, and maybe not just IOs, but just people and professionals overall, when you isolate yourself, you stop growing and you start to think that maybe what you've done is just all there is. And it can be so frustrating when you go into a workplace or you're going to a new place and people are just in a different area, in a different space. So definitely, Anil, don't be a natural isolator. Which I don't think you are, because you've shown up to all of this a couple of times and I've seen you in the course too. So, but I feel like also, and I don't know what you think about this, but I feel like IOs are also people who tend to be introverted. So I think sometimes they can feel a little overwhelming. I know for me, the informational interviews took a long time to happen because I just didn't know how to reach out to people and I didn't know how those were going to happen whenever, we scheduled them or we're on this call with this a stranger or this person. So there's definitely a lot of growth that happens whenever you get into those connections and the networking. Okay, so I know we have a little bit of time left, but Syntyche, could you tell us, like, what do you know now that you wished you knew before? And that can be life-wise, work-wise, whatever you want to share with us.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I can talk about several things, but I think the most inspirational thing that I've gotten, I had the opportunity to work under Sam Altman. He was one of the investors in a startup company that I was previously with, and he 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 basically I asked him a simple question. I said, I thought it was simple. Can you tell me a list of the best books I should be reading? Because I'm like, oh, you're Sam Altman, ChatGPT, the founder of OpenAI. What is it?
Mhm.
What should I be reading? And this was at the time that we were, going through that whole internship. And
Mhm.
he said, well, I haven't read any good books. And I was like, what?
Oh my
What do
gosh.
you mean? You're Sam Altman. Anyway, but he said, you know what? I have some advice for you. And he said, when you are a person who's going through life and you are trying to figure out who you are, don't let everybody else determine who that is. And he
Ooh.
said, basically, let the world tell you no. Don't ever shut down your ideas. Don't ever. And it took me a minute to think about it. I was like, let them tell me no. What are you talking about? Yeah. He's like,
Mm.
don't let one person tell you no. Don't let two, three, four. Let the world tell you no. Keep your ideas. Don't ever
Mhm.
let that go because that idea came to you for a reason. And that is something that ever since he told me that, I was like, I needed to hear that because sometimes when, you're talking and you're in a room full of, people and, especially as IOs and we have like, we're done the research, we've, we're really looking at where we need to be and we might have personal aspirations inside of the IO field. Don't ever give up on that, keep with that because the very thing that came to you could be something that could change, you know, put your name out there
Yeah.
as an IO. And, this field is always, things are changing. The research that was current 10 years ago, is different. It evolves. COVID did that, a lot of it, so yeah, I mean, let the world tell you no. Don't give up on where you're supposed to be, your purpose.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that with everybody because I remember finishing up my master's and that wasn't long ago. That was just a year ago, about this month. I was getting close to finishing and I would go on LinkedIn and I would see all these people that have accomplished so much and they've done so much and they're, I mean, doing amazing things. And sometimes when you're a student, and I'm completely talking about myself here, you can feel like little, right? Because you're like, oh my God, no, now I got to go and catch up to all of these hundreds of people that have done amazing things. But I really heard what you're saying and really just, creating yourself, not letting anybody else create you, because I think that's where you bring that uniqueness into the field, which is what we need, right? We don't need a bunch of the same. We need one of you and your perspective and your experiences, and that's what's going to matter whenever you come into the field and you have this idea. So I love that. It took me a long time to realize everybody's on a journey, and what you see on LinkedIn is like just the top of like people's accomplishments, right? It's not all who they are. And so I really, really like that. So what are some words of advice you wish to share with the group? What are some things that you would really love to share with us? And before you tell us, let me read Williams's comment. Dostoevsky's book Crime and Punishment has some cautious words in regards to that advice, specifically related to obsessing about ideas and how to make them to work. I just thought I should offer a bit of counter, not to mention it just work, not necessarily bad advice, just a caution. I love this. It's almost like there's a little bit of philosophy everything is so unique to everyone. Syntyche, do you have any thoughts?
Am I mute? Oh, yeah. Thanks for sharing that, William. I think I think it's super important not to be so gung ho on something that, we're trying to force something to work, but definitely, as far as making a difference, in a way that is, data-based is super important. And those are things that we'd like to kind of share with others, especially if we've done the work and we've kind of come to a conclusion that these are things that are super important, especially for the workplace. I do a lot of work in side of the neuroaffirming and neurodivergent space. So I think we've got a long way to go. And I think it's super important to, keep those things out there. And I think just having that whole idea of just making sure that the things that we know are going to be advantageous for everyone is, a current conversation.
Well, and I think another part of that is that every experience that we have is completely unique and personal. So what you know now and what helped you at the moment, when he gave you that advice, I think was pivotal for you specifically. Doesn't mean that it has to be for everybody else. I think I always get curious about, how did people get here? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how everybody will get there. Like everybody has their own path. And it's always really cool to stay curious. That's how they did it. But there's a lot of work that needs to happen in how can I get there and remaining myself, being authentically who I am and serve the purpose that I was put on this earth to do. But so what are some words of advice? What do you think we should know? What do you want us to take away from here? And then after that, I'm going to ask you for some actionable steps. You're more than welcome to combine those two if you want to.
Yeah, I can definitely combine. I guess what I wish that someone might have told me when I was beginning my graduate program is to actually ask for opportunities to shadow. There were a lot of opportunities that I probably missed because I could have said, hey, can I sit in and kind of see what you do? I don't mind signing an NDA just to kind of see how things look. And of course, there's ways to kind of, you might go on YouTube and just see, a day in the life. But sometimes I think much of the time that doesn't really give you a clear idea of what things might look like. And if you have any professors who are currently working in the field, that is an awesome opportunity to reach out to them and say, hey, would you mind? I'm interested in, covering certain areas to see if I might be interested in them. Those are a couple of things that I wish I would have done in my graduate program.
I love that. I think that's such a brave thing to do. I'm a super big time introverted person, but I find it fascinating when you get to see people at work. And although I love those YouTube videos, like I can sit there and just watch them for self-care, a day in the life of consulting or a day in the life of an artist. Like I love all of that. I think you're right. It doesn't always give you the whole picture of why you do things. And in a lot of the work, especially, well, I'm going to say consulting because I don't have a lot of experience in everything else, but for the most part, you're very limited as to what you can share on social media. And so then you don't really ever get the whole picture. So I think it's cool that you're recommending that, having people step out of their comfort zone maybe and say, hey, can I see you at work? Can I see what this really feels like, looks like, and what is expected? I usually like to ask people, so what is the expectation? What is the outcome? That's awesome. And what do you think are some actionable steps students can take after this call today to either work on themselves, work on their career, or whatever you think could be helpful at this point in time for anybody, just based on what you know and what you've done?
I guess kind of realizing that you're never too I had someone say before, is like, hey, am I too old to do an internship? And it's never the case. Just depends on your time. And a lot of companies are looking for valuable team members. And a lot of times they'll do that through the internship. And you've gained a skill afterward. Another thing that I always kind of try to look at is just being able to be inside of a environment such as this one, where you're able to pass along ideas. I would be able to kind of, offer, hey, this company does great internships, things like that. to everyone who might be, graduating or have graduated, being able to foster some sort of direction as far as the whole data science side, being able to look at algorithms and LLMs, the whole IO space. If you're definitely interested in that side of things, Claude is a LLM that did really well in the studies for mimicking the most accurate people response. But a lot of people use ChatGPT and, they might use Gemini. But just being able to kind of stay up to date, and, inside of the work that we do, we call that just making sure that you are staying up on your professional development. So you don't get stuck inside of, one box. You're able to kind of look at current events and see how that relates back to your IO. Right now, the big thing is AI. So knowing something about AI, how it affects your organization, how it affects people, is probably something that you're going to want to have in your back pocket. So, I mean, those are, and of course, learning how to use it, is going to be super important to what you know, and adding that to your resume is important as well.
Oh my gosh, it is so true. And I think a lot of times you don't even have to do all of the research and all of the learning. I think spaces like this, and I find SEBOC just to be such a great community, because when you go in there, sometimes you just like join conversations and then you get up to date so fast because everybody else is either doing work on their role or just doing research, and you can have all of this like up-to-date information tidbits that you can just be like, oh, okay, now I have a starting point. William said, as a separate but quick question for affirming set of things, because you mentioned it and I'm actually quite curious. What are your thoughts on self-esteem, bullying, and leadership styles in relation to affirmation? And no need to apologize for all of the questions. That is why we're here.
So as far as affirmation, I was talking specifically about neuro affirming, or okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a great, yes, and now that's what I was talking about. But William, that's a great question. As far as, I mean, I have several thoughts on all of those topics. I guess I'm more so, I mean, I can talk all day on that if you wanted to be specific, but I guess specifically as far as neuroaffirmative practices and neuroinclusion in the workplace, I got a chance to participate on a project that Microsoft was doing, and also a couple other. I used to run the pilots for job analysis and job hiring for quite a few neuroaffirming organizations. Making sure that they were able to um, continue to offer those opportunities. And I think that the most information that I've been able to pull from that, and the most inclusive information, is working with Vanderbilt University, and also working alongside Microsoft. That was super helpful. And of course, being able to work with their accessibility team. We worked with them directly and kind of saw how things were going. We did measurements before and after. So, I mean, those are the two places that I would kind of look. But of course, if you're looking for information on that specific topic, yeah, Microsoft has a lot of information, and you would be able to find that. Yeah, definitely.
I like it. That gives us a pretty good starting point. Awesome. Thank you, Anna, for those questions. And William, no need to apologize. I think sometimes an hour is never enough because things start to come up. I would definitely recommend you follow Syntyche on LinkedIn. She has a lot of awesome things I know, I don't know if you've continued to participate in any other courses or anything where you've spoke up and presented some information, but if you do you usually share that on LinkedIn, or how can people just get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm always looking for new connections on LinkedIn. So definitely reach out. I would love to chat.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to be super mindful of everybody's time. I know for some of us it's a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier, but it's still, I want to make sure I honor everyone's time. And thank you so much for coming on here, taking some time out of your day to share some of your insights, experience, and just thoughts. Like I said, I'm completely blown away by everything that you've done and your love for data analytics. I did it for a little bit, and it is definitely something that's super interesting. It is something that requires a lot of love and passion, which I did not have. I love the people side. The analytics is cool, but I'm like, I want to be with the people. So it's always cool to have these conversations. Everybody just remember that you can always go back and watch these videos on the SEBOC website. There's, I believe, a library of all of the past guests that we've had. If you're interested in going back and learning from some of those conversations, feel more than free to do that. Other than that, everybody have a wonderful it's good to see you too, Anel. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully I'll see you in a month.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone.